Until now, we were deploying our Java Web Service app to a Tomcat servlet container running on our own local developer's machine, and we're testing it on our machine. So the RESTful web service we have developed is now accessible only on our computer. So in this video, we're going to launch our own Linux server in Amazon Cloud, and we will use it to deploy and host our RESTful web service. And having this Linux server with public IP address in the cloud enables us to make our web service available anywhere in the world. So we can point our mobile app to work with this service, and then that's it. Go ahead and publish our mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. So to be able to start your own Linux server in Amazon Cloud, you'll need to have an account with Amazon Web Services. And I have Amazon Web Services webpage opened right now on my screen. Go and type AWS Amazon.com on your browser window, and you will land on this landing page of Amazon Web Services. You'll need to sign up for an account. If you do have, or once you sign up, you will have this yellow button available to you. I will click on it to sign in to Amazon Web Services console. And once you sign in, you will have access to lots of Amazon Web Services resources. Like on the top left corner here, if I expand Amazon Services panel, you'll see that we have resources here for compute power, for storage, to work with databases and developer tools. So there's lots of services to learn. But to launch your own Linux server, we will need to work with EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud. So click on EC2, and it will take you to Elastic Compute Cloud dashboard here. You can start your instance, you can launch your instance right from the dashboard, or you can navigate to instances menu here on the left. But before you do, you will need to select the availability zone. And there are different availability zones available for your EC2 instance. And to make a decision which one is good for you is basically you need to think where your target audience is. So if your target audience is mostly in, for example, Tokyo, then most probably you want your Linux server to be based in Asia Pacific, Tokyo. Or if your mobile app is being used mostly by users in Canada, then you want your EC2 instance be launched there. It will still be available all around the world, but it will have better performance in Canada. But if your users come from all around the world, then you can leave US East selected. So I will leave it as is now, and then I can go ahead and launch one of the instances. I will click on Launch Instance button, and it will take me to the first step where I will need to choose an Amazon Machine instance. And Amazon Machine instance, or AMI for short, is a kind of template that contains the software configurations like operating system and different applications required to launch our EC2 instance. So you can select one of the instances that are listed here. But if you're new to Amazon Web Services, or you're a new customer, you can be eligible for a free tier. And if you are, then select one of the instances that have this label, free tier eligible, and you can filter them by checking this checkbox, free tier only, and then you have only those instances that are available for free tier. And we have Linux and we have Windows, lots of different options. I will choose this one, the very first one, and this AMI is the description of it you can read right here. So this instance, it has Elastic Block Store, the storage you can attach and detach from instance, and it has a default Amazon Web Services command line tools pre-installed. It has Python installed already, Ruby, Perl, and Java, and there are lots of other software packages that we can download and install from repository like PHP, MySQL. So I'll select this one and I'll continue. The next step is to choose one of the instance types, and Amazon EC2 they provide wide selection of those instance types, and they're all optimized to fit different use cases. So instances are they're basically virtual servers that can run our application. So for example, in our case, we're going to install MySQL and MySQL Server and Apache Tomcat servlet container to be able to run our RESTful web services. And these machine instances, they have different variations of CPUs and memory and storage and network capacity. So for example, the micro instance that we're going to launch, and it's available for free tier, it has only one CPU and it has only 1 gigabyte of memory. But instances listed below the page, they have, let's say, for example, this one has 8 CPUs and it has 32 megs of memory, and it's a large instance. So for our purposes, especially when we're just beginning and experimenting with our API, we will choose micro instance, especially it's available for free, but later on we can always upgrade it, we can always scale up. So I'll choose the micro instance and I will continue. I can review and launch right now, but I will continue to configure other details. So on this page we can configure even more options, but most of these configurations are outside of the scope of this video course. So the two specific configurations that I would like to mention are the shutdown behavior here and the enable termination protection, the termination protection. But you can look up on other options like number of instances if you wanted to start up more than one. But for this, again, for this course, we need only one. So shutdown behavior. During the initial development and testing time of your mobile app or a website, you might not need your EC2 instance be available online all the time. So you can start your server instance when you need it, and then stop it when you don't need it. And even though Amazon's small instances like Nano or Micro are very inexpensive, especially if you pay 1 year in advance, you still might want to stop your instance if you're still working on certain features and you're not going to need your server online for a few weeks, so that you do not pay for your server, for example. So when you do not need it and you can stop it, there are a couple of options available. There's stop and there's terminate. So the difference between stopping instance and terminating instance is that if you stop it, you can then start it again. But if you terminate the instance, there is no way you can bring it back. It will be terminated and it will be gone. So I always choose stop. And then termination protection. I always check to protect my instance against accidental terminations. So my instance does not disappear if I accidentally choose to terminate it when I don't need it for a week, for example. So let's go next to the storage. If we do not make any change here on this page, our instance will start with the 8 GB of storage. But if we need more storage, we can increase this up to 30 GB, and it will still be available for a free tier. I will leave 8 GB because it was always enough for me. I never store large files like profile images or photos, videos on the instance storage itself, but I always use Amazon S3, which stands for Amazon Simple Storage. And Amazon S3 is designed especially to store large files in the cloud, like photos and videos. So I always make my mobile app upload image or video file to Amazon S3, but the link to this image, the link to that file, I put into a database. So 8 GB is almost always enough initially, but again, I can always scale up. I can always upgrade my instance to a larger version when I need. So here I like to uncheck delete on termination, so that if I accidentally terminate my instance, at least I don't lose the storage. I can always delete it myself when I need to. I can always delete it later. So let's go next to tags. And tagging is basically we are labeling our instance just for visual distinction. So for example, the label for this instance will be photo app API server, something like this. and then I can continue to the next step. And next step is very important. Security groups is like firewall, is a set of firewall rules that controls the traffic to our instance. On this page we can add rules to allow specific traffic to reach our instance. For example, we will need to be able to connect to our server via SSH and install additional software packages like Tomcat and MySQL. We will need to update Java, and we might need to upload some files via FTP. So on this page we can configure or restrict access to our server. So let's add a few rules. For example, we will use SSH, and the source is very important as well. So we can provide custom IP address from where we would connect to our instance, or we can set that we will be connecting from anywhere in the world. We will set this one to anywhere. Or if you know that you will be connecting to your Amazon instance from your current IP address only, then you choose your IP address. I always choose my IP address, but if I'm connecting from a different office, then I log in into Amazon console and then I update the IP address in the security group. We'll add one more group, and for example, we might need to have HTTP access to our server, and we will. An HTTP address is basically we want to be able to connect to our server from anywhere. Send HTTP request, and we might want to add the HTTPS as well, so that our API can communicate with our server over the secure connection. And I will also set it to anywhere. And for our Tomcat, to be able, because Tomcat servlet container works on specific port. If port 80 is taken, we can assign a different port. By default, it works on port 8080. So to be able to assign custom ports, we will choose custom TCP rule, and here we can provide custom port number. So our Tomcat will work on the port number 8080, and we will also set it to work from anywhere. And this is it. You can always come back and change this security group rules later on, even when your instance is launching. So I will show you how to do it later on. So let's click on review and launch now. And on this page we can just review everything that we have selected: the Amazon machine instance details and the instance type that we have selected. So we've selected micro instance with 1 CPU and 1 gig of memory, and it uses elastic block storage. And basically elastic block storage is the storage that is attached to our computer, and we can always detach it, and we can attach it to a new instance when we want to upgrade. So it's good when our instances have this elastic block store. And then security groups that we have configured, again, we can always come back and configure this group later on. And we can, if we want to change it now, we can click on this link to edit instance details and go to configure instance details page right away, or we can come back and edit security groups later. And again, we can expand and look at the instance details we have selected, the storage we have selected, and the tag we have assigned to our instance, and everything. If everything is good, we can click on launch, and before the instance is launched, we will need to select the key pair. Key pair is very important because we don't provide password when we connect to our instance. We will use the key pair, and as it is said here, key pair consists of a public key that is stored on Amazon Web Services and a private key that we need to store, and we need to download and store it in a secure location, and we must keep it and not lose it, because if we don't have the private key file that we've downloaded, we will not be able to connect to our Linux server. So from the option here, choose create a new key pair and then give it a name. So I can give it a name like for example, photo app server. Let's do for the app EC2 server, and it's very important that I download this key pair and store it somewhere I do not lose. I will need to have this key pair to be able to connect to my Linux server. Once I've downloaded the key pair, I can launch the instance, and it will take a few minutes only for instance to launch. While the instance is launching, I can go to EC2 dashboard, and then I can switch to instances on the left side here. And now I have two instances running. One of them is Swift developer blog that supports my blog, and another is the new one, the photo app API server. And when I click on it, I will have the description and all the configurations that I've selected below here. So the instance currently is running, but it's not fully available to us. This still initializing, but we already have public DNS here, and we have public IP address that we can use. And once Amazon instance becomes available, we can use this IP address or even public DNS to connect to it using SSH. So here we have security groups. Like, we can click on this link, it will take us to security group configuration for this Amazon instance, and we can switch to inbound configuration, and here we can always edit it and delete and add a new rules. Okay, so let's cancel it. Let's go to instances. It should be up and working for us by now. So yes, the instance state is running and all checks are successful. Also, once your instance becomes available or the instance state changes, this table view will reload automatically so that you can see whether your instance is running or not. But if for some reason it did not reload for you automatically, you can always click on this reload button here so that your table view can be reloaded and you can see the new status of your instance. Another important feature that I would like to share with you now is how to stop your instance. To be able to stop instance, you will need to select it and then go to Actions, Instance State, and then stop the instance. And here we also have Terminate. So remember the difference between the two. If you stop the instance will be stopped, but you will later be able to start it again. While your instance is stopped, Amazon will not charge you the hourly rate for you not using it, so you will not be charged. But if you have lots of data on your instance store, you will be charged for the elastic block storage volume. But if you terminate the instance will be gone. So Amazon will not charge you for anything, but the instance will also be gone. Okay, so choose wisely which one you want. If you want to continue using the instance, just stop it, and then later on you will be able to come back and start it again. Okay, so I've selected to stop the instance, and I see that the instance status is stopping, and I will start it again when I need it.